Well, Scott, thanks so much for joining us on the program tonight. I really appreciate it.
Great to be back, Cam.
And a great column all about the Brian Aken case in New Jersey and the fact that, as you point out, there were so many problems with the what happened to Brian Aken, from the laws to the way the laws were applied by the judge. I mean, this was you'd call it a comedy of errors, but it really is a tragedy of errors.
Right. It's the perfect storm, which is a New Jersey gun rights injustice, which is coined by Evan Nappen for this. And that's exactly right. From insane laws, unconstitutional laws that ban possession of firearms except for limited, narrow carve-outs, which, by the way, Mr. Aken was clearly within, to an arresting officer who believed that he fit within one of those but arrested him anyway, to a legislature that bumped the penalty for unlawful possession of a handgun and ignored our warnings, to a judge that wouldn't let evidence of the exemption be considered by the jury. It's, as I talk about in the column, it's a systemic failure of government, except for Governor Christie's office, which fixed it for Aitken, but not for the rest of us.
Well, no, absolutely, and that's why you close your piece calling on the New Jersey legislature to do exactly that, to fix this. And Sky, I remember us talking a few years ago when these changes were made to the law, and you said this was going to happen. People like Brian Aken, obviously you didn't refer to Brian by name, but you said good people are going to get hurt by these laws. Clearly that is happening, and clearly these laws need to change.
Well, you know what? The legislative leadership back then laughed it off. They said, oh, stop it. That's never going to happen. You guys are just imagining it. And, oh, don't worry, we'll fix it down the road. Senator John Girgenti, who's head of the Senate Law and Public Safety Committee, ramrodded this through, doing the bidding of former Governor Corzine. We raised these red flags, as you say, and they just ignored us. Literally laughed it off.
Yeah. And again, who's laughing now? Frankly, nobody should be laughing, because we've seen the incredible human hardship that can result from the prosecution of these laws, and again, the judge deciding rather arbitrarily, it seems in this case, not to allow the jury to hear about the moving exemptions. Scott, the makeup of the legislature is not what you would call pro-gun in New Jersey right now, even after the midterm elections. Are you hopeful that the legislature will take another look at what the current laws are, given the attention that was focused on the Brian Aken case?
Well, I'm beyond hopeful. I'm optimistic for several reasons. One is we have lawsuits pending, and that will be pending, that will force them to take another look if they don't do it of their own accord. Okay, we're going to sweep the legs out from under New Jersey gun law in the wake of Heller and McDonald, but until that happens, and it's probably going to be a year or two down the road till all our litigation has its desired effect. Mm-hmm. We see the tide beginning to turn. We have an A+ rated Democrat, believe it or not, in New Jersey, who is our state Senate president. And that's Steve Sweeney, and he is pro-gun. He's as pro-gun as they come, and he has publicly stated that he wants to fix the New Jersey gun laws that victimized Brian Aken. And there are others, especially which in New Jersey, when you see a Democrat starting to do this, you know the tide could be starting to turn. Senator Jeff Van Drew, you've talked about this, put in a right-to-carry bill that was actually very flawed, but nonetheless, we're seeing movement. Now, maybe that's a reaction to our lawsuit to bring down New Jersey's right-to-carry laws. Maybe they know the jig is up in the wake of McDonald, and they're trying to, preempt more litigation. Mm-hmm. But for whatever reason, we see the beginnings of noises to fix this. Nobody was out there saying that Brian Aken shouldn't be freed. Okay, when you see the Philadelphia Inquirer running sympathetic stories, this was the perfect storm of injustice.
Oh, I know one guy who is saying that Brian Aken should remain behind bars.
Who was that?
That would be Brian Miller, the head of Ceasefire New Jersey.
Well,
because this is just a common sense law, Scott.
Well, just a few short years ago, Mr. Miller was saying that gun ownership was a privilege in New Jersey, enjoyed by a tiny minority of fringe extremists. And, now we have Heller and McDonald. So he's He's going to be clinging to his faulty beliefs for a long time. But I just wanted to tell you, very interestingly, related to this op-ed, there was a lot of questioning and editing behind the scenes by the editors of the Star-Ledger.
Really?
I've been writing op-eds for 10 years, and I've never been probed so deeply by an editor over the content of an op-ed piece as I have on this one.
That's what happens when they hire former TSA screeners to start editing the newspapers. What were the questions about, Scott?
Well, they included questions about, in my original version of the op-ed, I stated quite correctly that New Jersey gun law generally bans possession of all handguns, with limited carve-outs for law-abiding citizens. And they took issue with that and said, no, that can't possibly be the law, and we can't tell our readers that. And I then pointed out the law and the statute that actually says that, because, as we've talked about, New Jersey is one of those restrictive states. Ban it all and then carve out a little tiny exception. So it's factually accurate to say the general rule in New Jersey is everything regarding handguns is banned. Possession, transfer, carry, temporary transfer, it's all banned except where it's allowed. And those, as we've discussed many times, those places where it's allowed are very narrow, and it's very easy to fall out of step with them. And so they took issue with that, and we sidestepped the issue. But very interesting to see the amount of scrutiny on this one.
Well, yeah, and I maybe it's do you think it's because the editors had a hard time believing that New Jersey's gun laws were really as bad as you described them?
I think it's partly that. I think it's partly that there are some people that don't like that Governor Christie's getting a lot of positive attention over this, and there's been a lot of focus on some of the factual circumstances around the stop and search that resulted in Aken being arrested, and issues with his family, things having nothing to do with the case. So there are some folks that are kind of looking to make trouble here. Bottom line is they printed the editorial, and obviously, we're glad they did, because I think we've laid out pretty clearly the big picture of what happened. But it's just an interesting observation. Normally in an opinion piece, you're not probing the writer, and sorry, there's that word again. But opinion's opinion, and I guess maybe because this one had a lot of facts in it that they never heard before or couldn't accept, they wanted to challenge them. But be it as it may, it's out there, and we're glad it is.
Well, I appreciate you, no pun intended, sticking to your guns on this, Scott, and look forward to talking to you again very soon. Have a happy New Year, sir.
You too, Cam. Take care.
All right. Scott Bach, president of the Association of New Jersey Rifle and Pistol Clubs, joining us here on NRAnews.com and Sirius XM Patriot.